Live from New Delhi, watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel-Hamas set for crucial Gaza peace talks in Egypt. US President Trump urges both sides to move fast, optimistic about first phase completing this week. Differences persist in the legislative corridors as shutdown continues in the US. White House warns of imminent layoffs even as Democrats stick to the demand of healthcare subsidies. 47 killed and hundreds evacuated after Nepal hit by heavy rain and flood. Alert issued for Indian state of Bihar. Also rescue and relief operation underway in landslide hit Darjeeling. And in Women's World Cup 2025, Indian women overpower Pakistan by 88 runs. Kranti Gore heroics help women in blue register back-to-back wins. And on to the details now. Israel and Hamas will hold indirect negotiations in Egypt on Monday amid hopes for a possible agreement on ending the Gaza conflict based on Donald Trump's ceasefire plan. Now, Trump has promoted a 20-point plan aimed at ending the fighting in Gaza, securing the release of remaining hostages and defining the territory's future. Also, Israel and Hamas have agreed to parts of the plan. Hamas on Friday accepted the hostage release and several other elements, but sidestepped contentious points, including calls for its disarmament, which it has long rejected. Now, Trump welcomed Hamas's response, saying he believed Hamas had shown it was ready for a lasting peace. He told Israel to stop bombing Gaza immediately, but its attacks on the enclave have continued. And speaking to reporters ahead of the talks, President Trump sounded an optimistic note, saying that he and a lot of countries surrounding Israel had some very good meetings with Hamas.
Very quickly, we had some very good meetings. The countries of the world, a lot of the countries surrounding Israel, frankly, Muslim, Arab, and many others have had great meetings with Hamas. And it looks like it's working. So we'll wait for a little while, see how it all turns out.
Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that the responsibility lies with Hamas to fully accept the peace plan.
Well, we accepted the deal, as did all the world. It was President Trump's plan. Hamas says that it accepted the deal. Now the onus is on Hamas. This plan consists of two parts. The first part is releasing all the hostages. Israel makes a tactical withdrawal, stays in Gaza. And then the second part is meant to demilitarize Gaza and disarm Hamas. That will be negotiated. Of course, I can't tell you if Hamas will agree to it. I think that it's possible. I hope it'll happen, but I can't guarantee that it'll happen. And so if it doesn't happen, what President Trump has said is that he will back Israel completely in acting forcefully against Hamas. Well, let's hope that that we can finish it the easy way and not the hard way.
Meanwhile, a day before the conflict's second anniversary, Israelis gathered at the Hostages Square in Tel Aviv on a Sunday, praying for the return of the hostages. Many in the crowd sat in silence, while others wept or joined chants led from a makeshift stage. Also on October 7, 2023, Hamas attack on Israel triggered the conflict in Gaza. Hamas killed 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and about 251 were taken hostages. Well, Trump administration officials issued a warning on Sunday that Americans will increasingly feel the pain of an ongoing U.S. government shutdown. Now, most federal operations remained shuttered as no tangible signs of negotiations have emerged between U.S. congressional leaders since President Trump met them last week. Democrats are refusing to give in over the demands for continued government health care subsidies in the budget. White House has warned that plans are being finalized for the firing of thousands of federal workers. Shutdowns are a periodic feature of gridlocked Washington when the two parties cannot agree on budget priorities, but this time the stakes are higher. U.S. President Donald Trump has hinted that government has already started to permanently fire, not merely furlough, government employees. Also, Trump responded to a question on federal workers cut off, saying that the things are taking place right now.
Taking place right now, and it's all because of the Democrats. The Democrats are causing the loss of a lot of jobs with their, it's a shutdown. It's their shutdown, not our shutdown, it's their shutdown.
Well, the shutdown began on October 1st, the start of federal fiscal 2026, after Senate Democrats rejected a short-term funding measure that would keep federal agencies open through November 21st. Now, while Democrats are demanding a permanent extension of enhanced premium tax credits to help Americans purchase private health insurance through the Affordable Care Act and assurances that the White House will not try to unilaterally cancel spending agreed to in any deal. Now, on Monday, the Senate is due to vote for a fifth time on the stopgap funding bill that has already passed the Republican-controlled House of Representatives and on a Democratic alternative. Neither measure is expected to receive the 60 votes needed to advance. With a 53-47 seat majority and one Republican opposed to the House funding bill, Republican leaders need at least 8 Democrats to support the measure, but have seen only 3 cross the aisle so far. And U.S. President Donald Trump attended the Titans of the Sea, a salute to the fleet, commemorating the U.S. Navy's 250th birthday on Sunday. He was joined by First Lady Melania Trump aboard the USS George H.W. Bush. The Trumps watched a military demonstration while standing on the deck of the aircraft carrier. Navy destroyers launched missiles and fired shells into the Atlantic Ocean. Navy SEALs descended from helicopters and fighter jets catapulted off. Behind a bulletproof glass, Trump said the story of the U.S. Navy is a tale of loyalty, sacrifice and commitment stretching back 250 years.
From the American Revolution until today, the story of the U.S. Navy is a tale of loyalty, sacrifice and commitment stretching back 250 years. So we're celebrating 250. Problem with Vietnam, we stopped fighting to win. We would have won easy. We would have won Afghanistan easy. We would have won every war easy. But we got politically correct. Let's take it easy. We're not politically correct anymore, just so you understand. We win. Now we win. We don't want to be politically correct anymore.
Well, members of Syria's electoral colleges finished voting for new lawmakers on Sunday. Vote counting has begun with some preliminary results expected on Sunday night and the official winners to be announced on Monday. Local committees in Syria cast their ballots for members of a transitional parliament, with a third of the new lawmakers to be appointed directly by interim leader Ahmed al-Shara. Over 1,500 candidates, including only 14% women, are running for the assembly with a 30-month renewable term. Shara will appoint 70 of the 210 members, while local committees chosen by the Electoral Commission will select the remaining 2/3. However, the Druze majority Sweda province and the Kurdish-held northeast are currently excluded due to lack of government control, leaving their 32 seats vacant. Around 6,000 people took part in Sunday's selection process. And the Secretary-General of the French Presidency, Emmanuel Macron, announced the composition of France's new government led by Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu on Sunday. Roland Lescure, the close ally of President Emmanuel Macron, has been named finance minister, while former finance chief Bruno Le Maire takes over the defense portfolio. Now, key figures such as Jean-Noel Barrot at Foreign Affairs, Bruno Retailleau at the Interior Ministry and Gerald Darmanin at Justice have retained their roles. Prime Minister Lecono has sought to win over the socialist by proposing a wealth tax, though the exempted business owners' assets to safeguard jobs and businesses. He also dismissed the use of special constitutional measures to push the budget through without a parliamentary vote. Now, the budget negotiations have become increasingly tense, requiring careful compromises among three ideologically divided blocs in a fragmented parliament. And young Moroccans took to the streets and cities across the kingdom for the 9th straight day of the protest, calling for an end to corruption and a change of government. Organised online by the Gen Z, whose founders have remained anonymous, the rallies have swept the usually stable North African country since September 27th. In Casablanca, the crowd amassed in a working-class El Fedar district, demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Aziz Akanouch. The protesters have demanded reforms to social services, especially health and education, and voiced anger over social inequality. Also, Gen Z 212, which has more than 180,000 members on Discord, insists on the non-violent nature of its protest, and the gatherings since then have been largely peaceful. And in Hungary, thousands of protesters gathered at Kossuth Square in front of the parliament on Sunday, voicing opposition to Prime Minister Viktor Orban amid economic stagnation and high inflation ahead of the 2026 parliamentary elections. Orban faces his toughest election next year as the country's economic challenges persist and inflation hampers potential interest rate cuts by the central bank. Now, the crowd criticized Orban's close ties to Moscow while likening him to failed communist leaders. And some news from around the world now. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum marked her first day in office with massive, colorful rally at Mexico City's Zocalo. Addressing thousands, she firmly declared in defense that Moscow will not accept any form of foreign intervention. The event celebrated a historic milestone as the country's first women leader. Indonesia celebrated the 80th anniversary of its armed forces with a grand parade at Jakarta's National Monument. President Prabowo Subianto, senior military officials, and thousands of personnel from Army, Navy and Air Force attended the event. The ceremony showcased the strength and unity of Indonesia's military. Vietnam's ancient city of Hue is celebrating the Mid-Autumn Festival with royal grandeur at the Imperial Citadel, offering visitors a glimpse of traditional festivities. The event features lantern parades, lion dances, folk games and music and dance performances on October 6th and 7th. Across Vietnam, cities are glowing with lanterns, mooncake markets and family festivities marking the season. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Piyush Goyal to visit Qatar from October 6 to 7 to co-chair Qatar-India Joint Commission meeting. DGCA orders airlines to deploy additional flights this festive season to curb airfare hike. And curtains down on World Para Athletic Championship as host India finishes with its best performance in history.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching TD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar weighed in on key global and economic challenges at the Qatar Economic Conclave in New Delhi on Sunday, from trade relations with the US to shifting geopolitical dynamics and energy security. Minister Jaishankar outlined India's strategic priorities.
India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on Sunday said India is working to resolve trade issues with the United States. Addressing the closing session of Qatar Economic Conclave, Jaishankar also spoke on safeguarding India's economic interests.
At the end of the day, there has got to be a trade understanding with the United States. There has to be one because it is the world's largest market, but also because it is, much of the world has reached those understandings. But it has to be an understanding where our bottom lines, our red lines are respected. In any agreement, there are things you can negotiate and there are things you can't. And I think we are pretty clear about that. And we have to find that landing ground. And that's been the conversation really which has been going on since March.
The minister also spoke about the emerging reality of regional multipolarity, calling it a transition from an old world order to a complex, often contradictory phase.
How do we actually practice this multi-alignment or this multiple relationships with different agendas and with different partners, sometimes in different regions? This is really the external challenge. The internal one, of course, is to improve every dimension of our comprehensive national power. And in my view, we've laid a very solid foundation in the last decade. I think these 5 years, given the international environment, will test us like it would test every other country in the world.
On energy security, Jaishankar pointed to the evolving dynamics, especially the US becoming a major energy exporter. He raised concerns over price caps, sanctions, and subsidies, questioning the role of market forces in such a disrupted system.
Just as the US has emerged as a champion of fossil fuels, China has also established itself actually as a leader in renewables. So pretty much any path you take on renewables, finally all roads lead back there as well. Deriving from that, related to that, if one looks at the role of big tech, now there have always been big companies driving the global economy, but the position, the salience of big tech in today's world really represents a new level of prominence and influence of a few companies.
The fourth edition of the Qatar Economic Conclave, held in New Delhi from October 3rd to 5th under the theme Seeking Prosperity in Turbulent Times, concluded with keynote speech by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. The conclave was inaugurated on Friday by Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Bureau Report, DD India.
And India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will undertake a two-day official visit to Australia on the 9th and 10th of October. The visit comes at a historic moment when India and Australia commemorate 5 years of establishment of India-Australia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. This will also mark the first ever visit of an Indian Defence Minister to Australia since 2014. During the visit, Minister Singh will hold talks with his Australian counterpart. He'll also chair a business roundtable in Sydney, which will be attended by industry leaders from both sides. And Union Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal is visiting Doha for the meeting of the Qatar-India Joint Commission on Trade and Commerce from 6th to 7th of October. This visit underscores the importance that India attaches to its trade and investment ties with Qatar, one of our important trading partners in the Gulf Cooperation Council. With bilateral trade estimated at over $14 billion USD in 2024-25. Now, the two sides are expected to hold wide-ranging discussions, reviewing bilateral trade performance, addressing existing trade barriers and non-tariff issues, and exploring avenues to enhance trade and investment flows. Also, the talks are likely to include deliberations on the proposed India-Qatar FTA with the way forward on finalization of the terms of reference for the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which will further strengthen economic cooperation between both the countries. And the Indian Navy is set to commission and row the second anti-submarine warfare shallow watercraft at a ceremony today at the Naval Dockyard in Visakhapatnam. Now, the commissioning of Androth marks yet another milestone in the Indian Navy's steady stride towards capability enhancement and indigenization. Also built by Garden Reach shipbuilders and engineers at Kolkata, Androth is a testimony to India's growing maritime self-reliance with over 80% indigenous content. Now, the commissioning of Androth will significantly bolster the Navy's ASW capabilities, especially in countering threats in littoral waters. Together, these inductions in recent months are Nala, Nistar, Udaygiri, Nilgiri and now Androth reflect the Navy's balanced growth across the spectrum of maritime operations, embodying the spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliance. And in view of the recent concerns relating to the quality and administration of cough syrups, India's Health Ministry convened a high-level meeting with states and UTs on quality and rational use of cough syrups. Now, the Union Health Secretary emphasized strict compliance with a revised schedule by all drug manufacturers and thorough exercise of identification of non-compliant units must be undertaken and strict action be taken against them. Also, the government exhorted states to ensure rational use of cough syrups, particularly among the children, as most coughs are self-limiting and do not require pharmacological treatment. The meeting follows recent reports of child deaths in Chhindwara, Madhya Pradesh, allegedly linked to contaminated cough syrups. And some weather-related updates now. First up from Nepal, where heavy rains triggered landslides and flash floods, blocking roads, washing away bridges and killing at least 49 people. Torrential downpours have lashed Nepal since Friday, leaving rivers in spate and many areas in the Himalayan nation inundated. At least 5 people are missing, while many others are urged to take shelter in safe places. Security personnel were deployed to assist rescue efforts with helicopters and motor boats. Rivers in the capital, Kathmandu, have also swelled, inundating settlements along their banks. Now, Prime Minister Sushila Karki said government agencies were fully prepared for rescue and relief. Weather officials said rains were likely to lash the Himalayan nation until Monday. Well, life in India's West Bengal's Darjeeling and Doordarshan has become tough after heavy rain on Saturday night. So far, 18 people have lost lives in rain-related incidents. Several locals and hundreds of tourists are trapped in these areas. Hill roads in Mirik were closed after a landslide. The NDRF is engaged in rescue operations. In southern West Bengal, several districts are waterlogged because of heavy rainfall in the neighbouring state of Jharkhand as well. The Damodar Valley Corporation was forced to release thousands of cusecs of water from its reservoirs. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee claims it is a conspiracy and party workers protested at a few places before the corporation's office. And on to some business news now. In a bid to prevent airfares from soaring yet again this festive season, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation has asked airlines to augment flight capacities by deploying additional flights to meet high demand. Following this, the Aviation Ministry says Indigo has informed the regulator that it will deploy approximately 730 additional flights across 42 sectors. Air India and AI Express will have an additional 486 flights across 20 sectors. SpiceJet to deploy approximately 546 additional flights across 38 sectors. And on to some sports news now. India beats Pakistan in the ICC Women's World Cup in Colombo on Sunday to maintain perfect record at 12-0 despite a glitchy performance in all 3 departments. While batting first on a slow pitch, India found momentum hard to come by as several batters struggled to convert starts into meaningful contributions. Openers Pratika Raval and Smriti Mandhana provided a steady start, while Harleen Deol played a patient 46. Jemima Rodriguez and Richa Ghosh's cameo at the end gave India a total of 247. Chasing 248, Pakistan's innings quickly fell apart. A top-order collapse left them reeling at 26 for 3. Sidra Amin stood out with a vibrant 106 ball 81, but the rest of the lineup failed to capitalize. India's Kranti, along with Deepti Sharma, shared 6 wickets between them to bundle out Pakistan for 159 runs. And the 12th edition of the World Para Athletic Championship concluded at New Delhi's Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium on Sunday for 9 days. The capital witnessed record-breaking performances, emotional victories, and a true celebration of human spirit. India, the proud host, showcased not just world-class organization, but also its growing sporting might. From accessibility to infrastructure, every detail reflected India's readiness to host major global events. This was India's biggest ever contingent, and it delivered the nation's best performance in history. Indian para-athletes made the nation proud, finishing 10th overall with a record 22 medals, including 6 gold, 9 silver and 7 bronze medals. And the sky was filled with a vibrant display of hot air balloons in New Mexico during the 53rd annual Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta on Sunday. The event's signature, Mars Ascension, featured hundreds of balloons lifting off into the morning sky. The festival is a 9-day celebration held every year during the first week of October. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download. Now, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.